Story 1. Am I the a-hole for literally showing my dad how he behaves every day when he gets home from work? My, 16 female, father, 46 male, is the breadwinner, while mom is a stay-at-home mom. She handles everything around the house like cooking, mopping, washing, laundry, etc. I'm the oldest and I try to help, but really there's only so much I can do while my dad just gets home at the end of the day and literally complains about everything. Like how the carpet isn't clean or how the food is cold. As a result, I'd have to listen to a huge argument daily between him and mom. It's exhausting, but honestly, I think that my dad is in the wrong here. I tried talking to him to get him to see how his behavior is, but to no avail. So what I did was pick a day off for him and pretend to act like him. I put together an outfit that looked like a suit and put black tape over my lips to look like a mustache. At 6 p.m., I went inside the house, shouted, "I'm home!" Then sat next to him in the living room and started kicking my shoes while complaining about the state of the house at the top of my lungs. He glanced at me confused, asking what I was doing. I ignored him, then started yelling about the carpet being dirty, the shower not ready, the kids needing to be quiet, and so on. He kept staring while mom and my siblings laughed. My youngest brother kept pointing toward me, saying, "This is Daddy." I then proceeded to yell about dinner, then berated my mom for not preparing our out before time. My dad stopped me and in a serious tone asked what I was doing. I turned to him and said, "What? Can't a man effing rest after working long hours?" in the most macho voice I could muster. My dad got the hint because this was the common phrase he uses daily. He went quiet and avoided looking at me. I stopped the act and told him I was trying to show him what he's like every day when he comes home from work. He said nothing, just went outside and refused to speak to me. Later, he went on about how I mocked and invalidated him, that he does work hard, and me doing this was disrespectful and invalidating. Mom said it was funny, but also thought I hurt my dad's feelings, and I could have got the message across some other way instead. Well, it sounds to me like you said you tried getting that across before. You attempted to explain to him how he was acting, and he didn't listen to him. So now you just showed him. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. I think holding a mirror up to someone so it can be like, all right, if you're not going to listen to me, then look at yourself. See how you act. And if you're feeling mocked, then maybe you're doing something wrong. Like seriously, if you're so upset about the little performance that was put on, then those are your actions. That's what you've been doing. And I don't care about, like, it doesn't matter if you're the breadwinner. Oh, I do this and that all day. Like, I'm sorry, that doesn't give you a right to act like a complete jerk. You can still contribute. You can still be nice and understanding. There's a house full of kids and all this stuff to do. Chill out. And so, yeah, no, I think that this is absolutely A-okay. And the mom, saying that it's like, well, you could have done it a better way. This sounds like a mom who has put up with his abuse and crap for too long. And I'm not saying that this should be like the end of a marriage or something, but I am saying that he needs to learn from this. And he needed to hear that. Story 2. Can't you just get the color out of your hair? Okay, so this happened today like an hour or so ago. A bit of a preamble. I'm a trans girl. I just got to my family's house to visit for Easter. I rode my motorbike down and have shortish, pretty deep purple hair. I pulled into a non-brand specific supermarket around the corner from my family's place to pick up an energy drink, and as I got off my bike and removed my helmet, I could see out of the corner of my eye this little girl, LG, by the trolley return, pointing at me and generally going nuts. I start to walk past to walk inside the store, and the little girl turns to her mother, our entitled parent, sitting on a bench nearby with an old lady who must be her mother, both having a cigarette each. Little girl: "Mommy, can I have hair like her?" I rightly assumed this was about me. Entitled parent: "No," little girl's name, "that's not a girl." Old lady grunts in approval. I ignore and move in to grab my sweet taurine juice, and because it's Easter weekend, I'm in there for about 10 minutes or so, just in a crowd. As I walk back out, the family is still outside, with a lot more cigarettes smoked. Little girl: "But why can't I have pretty hair?" She sounds like she's been doing this non-stop. Entitled parent: "Because I said so. Now shut up before I bloody clip you." I start to walk past as the entitled parent waves to catch my attention. Hey mate, why have you got to have hair like that for? Me. Oh, because I want it. No, but why like that? No man I know has a color like that. Can't you just take it out? Well, I'm not a man, so there's that much, and not without constantly washing my hair for like a couple of days. No, I mean like now. Can you get it out now? I knew the education in my area was lacking, but damn. Look, I just wanted to grab a drink and get going. Let's just leave it. I turned to walk back to my bike and put my helmet back on. Entitled parent. Fine then, you little F-slur. Go be a crap somewhere else. Old lady grunts in a way that I guess must have been a laugh. Little girl was quiet through all this, just looking between the two of us as she cuddled into her mother. I just had enough, but I didn't want her to feel like she came out on top, so I turned around, still a bit away from them, and reached a hand into my jacket pocket. Me. Oh, right, yeah, I'm sorry. Here, have this as an apology. Pull out my hand and flip them both the bird, smiling and waving my other hand to present my apology. After a second of silence and slack-jawed looks from the pair, I turn to go back to my bike and start to make my way off, as in the background I hear the entitled parent hurling abuse my way about different stuff. Not as fantastical or karma-filled as some other stories on this sub, but What a nasty kind of person to be. Like, why do you have to, like, call people out, you know, like, trans women are women, trans men are men. That is my belief, my stance here. If you don't like it, I don't care. But if you genuinely don't believe that, why do you have to say stuff? Why do you have to get all snotty and be like, why do you have to do that? Why can't you get rid of that? Like, just let people live their life. If you don't agree with it, it's not doing any harm to you. The only harm that's coming is this little girl seeing a fun hair color and being like, can I have hair like that? And you just have to go, no, and continue just being an absolute garbage person, but quietly. But no, you have to loudly, like, call people out and use slurs and just be generally unpleasant. Like, how hard is it to just be polite and keep your mouth shut? You know, I was raised by the generation that's doing all this stuff, but that generation raised me to be polite, I thought. I feel like a lot of us were raised to be polite and, you know, mind your own business with stuff like that. But boy, oh boy, the generation that like to harp about that sure does like to open their friggin' mouths all the time, don't they? Story 3. My roommate will jump out of bed and run to the shower when he hears my alarm in the morning. My roommate enjoys nice long showers in the morning using all of the hot water. I realize that he literally jumps out of bed and runs into the bathroom when he hears my alarm. I started putting my alarm on silent for a while, and this was working well enough, but I still missed my morning shower several times because of their unreasonable long showers. So I just started moving my 2 alarms. One alarm about an hour and a half before I normally get up. This has caused him for about 2 weeks now to get up really early, run the hot water out, and be out with enough time for it to be warm again. Small victories are nice. Edit. It is possible to run out of hot water. Really, who questions that? This is intended to be a lighthearted post, hence the petty revenge. My roommate is not a piece of crap. We've been friends since 8th grade. Everyone does things their roommates don't like, myself included. Despite what people seem to think, we do talk about houses issues. Sometimes people forget or don't realize how annoying it is or what they're doing, which is why I get a lot of revenge. I can understand why some people are like, how can you run out of hot water? Because it's very common in America, for some of you who might not know, to have hot water heaters that are tank heaters that hold a large reservoir of water that is kept up to a certain temperature. And when you use hot water, it draws from that tank. But eventually, you empty that tank out, it is refilled with just cold water and needs to heat up again. I know a lot of countries and even a lot of places in the US now have on-demand water heaters that will heat up water as you call for it so you don't run out. It's a thing, all right? Like, it's not that hard to look online. When people say you can run out of hot water, you can. Chill out. And second, yeah, if your roommate's doing that kind of thing, I think this is perfectly reasonable revenge. If they're going to be doing that stuff, then get them. But also, it's nice that you're being reasonable and understanding. Like, yeah, just It's just a thing roommates do, whatever. And if you can eventually have a talk about it, though, and be like, I'd really appreciate if you let me take a quick shower before you take your, like, half-hour-long super shower or something like that. Like, please? Story 4. Park illegally in a disabled space? Learn a very expensive lesson. I have a disabled parking placard, and a few weeks ago I went to Target to buy things I didn't need and forget the things I did. Not only were all the spaces taken, someone parked their gigantic Escalade on the line between two disabled spaces, taking up both. Wholly irritated because this happens so much, I walked around the car, no placard or disabled plate. Cue the fury of someone who has had to deal with this stuff all the time, and cue petty revenge. I took a pic and went inside to find a manager. When I found one, I showed her the photo and she rolled her eyes and sighed. Apparently this happens a lot at their location because it's near an affluent town with a lot of very wealthy, very entitled people. And most often it's the owners of huge SUVs and Ford F-150s that park like jerks. She said she'd call the cops, so I decided to go back outside and hang out by the doors to watch the show. The manager joined me and we chatted while we waited for the police. The cops arrived and walked around the car, peering through the windows and running the plate. One cop took out a little book and started writing in it. They took some photos, and one came over and asked if they'd made an announcement in the store to get the driver outside. The manager radioed someone inside and asked them to announce the make and model and plate of the car over the PA system. A few minutes later, she came charging out of the store, middle-aged, well-dressed woman, the common Karen of North America, and already yelling at the police. As soon as she got to her car, one of the cops held up his hand to shut her up and started lecturing her. I was too far away to hear, but she stopped yelling at least. The cop spoke to her for a few minutes, and then the other cop with the little book handed her 2 papers. She looked absolutely apoplectic. The cops came back over and spoke to the manager, telling her they ordered her to move her car, and if she didn't or caused problems in the store, to call them back and they'd tow the car. They told us they gave her 2 tickets for each space at $500 each. Ouch. The manager thanked the police and me and went back inside. The woman stomped around a bit before getting in her car and peeling out. The cops looked at each other, then got in their cars and followed her. Pretty sure she continued to have the day she deserved. Meanwhile, I happily treated myself to some Legos for performing a public service. I cannot stand people like this who either take up multiple spaces, but especially who take up handicap parking spaces. Because why? Do you really need to get in the store like 8 seconds faster than you would by parking somewhere else? I personally, I have no problem ambulating, walking around, stuff like that. So I typically park at the far end of all parking spots just to leave closer spots open for people who might need them. There are people who are elderly, people who need assistance moving around, wheelchairs, any number of things. There are so many people who being that much closer is actually meaningful to them. It is helpful because what is just an 8-second, 10-second walk for the rest of us is a lot more effort for them. So don't take those spaces. I don't care if there's 10 of them open right now. You don't know how long you might be in there, what you're taking up. Park further back if you don't need them. Good grief, it's not that hard to be a decent human being. If I was ever in a car with a friend and they just decided to try and take a handicapped space, I would flip the F out on them. I would not want to be friends with someone who does that kind of stuff. So if you're thinking about doing that, just try and think for a moment what most other people are going to think about you for doing that. Okay? Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.